Straight all day.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then you get it. Then what we do is put all this together to a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is we're going to talk about effectiveness versus efficiency. And yes, there is a difference between the two. You're going to understand what that difference is, why it matters, and how you can utilize both. And ideally, utilize both at the exact same time. But before we get to that, first, let me tell everyone I have a daily motivation text that I send out every single day free of charge to everyone who's in my text community. You can join my text community for free. All you got to do is text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. Every day I'll send you a message in the morning that's going to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. And as a bonus, you can actually respond to any one of those text messages. You'll be talking directly to me. And I do hit people back in the text, depending on what you ask and what you say. So text me at that number again, 305-384-6894. Now this topic, effectiveness versus efficiency, these are two things that you want to be. I think sometimes people may use these words interchangeably. That is incorrect. But we're going to make sure that you're clear on what both of these mean so that you understand how to utilize each. And again, how you can make them work together. So I don't need to give too much background on this one because I'm going to go into that as we get into the point. So let's get straight to it. Point number one, the topic again is effectiveness versus efficiency. First of all, let's get a definition of this word effective. It is the degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result, also known as success. So this is something that we talked about just a couple days ago in all the episodes where I talked about accurate thinking and operating off of accurate formulas. This is what effectiveness is. Doing something that produces, if you notice in that definition, producing a desired result, not just producing a result period, but the result that you actually want. That's how you know how effective something is how much does it produce the result that you want. Now, if you don't know what result you want, then it's impossible for you to be effective. It's impossible for anything you do to be effective. So what is it that you want? And then the actions that you take, how much or how close are these actions getting to giving you what you want? We all want to be effective, or at least we say we want to be effective. I mean, most people, if you ask them, do you want to produce your desired outcomes? Almost everybody will say yes. But one challenge to all of us when it comes to effectiveness is whether or not we even know what the desired result is. What is it that you want to achieve? If you can't answer that question and you can't answer it clearly in such a way, because the thing that you want to achieve needs to be something that you can look at and say, okay, I know I am there, or I know I'm halfway there, or I'm 80% of the way there. So there needs to be some form of measurability in it. It needs to be something that you can objectively look at and say, I have done this or I have not done this. As an example, I was speaking to some high schoolers once years back. And this young man in the back of the room said, well, my goal is I want to be an excellent basketball player by the end of next season. And I challenged him on that, and I asked him, well, what do you mean when you say excellent? Because excellent is not measurable. Now, excellent is a great way to describe yourself, and it'd be great if someone described what you did as excellent, but you need a way to measure it so that you know that you have actually achieved it, or if you still need to work on it. So what does excellent mean? Is it how many minutes you're going to play? Is it how many points you score? Is it how many wins that your team, how many games that your team wins? How are you actually going to measure that? And there are people who are out here running businesses and attempting to build something significant in their lives, but they don't have a clearly measurable outcome that they're after. Therefore, it's impossible for them to know what's effective and what's not because they don't have a way of measuring the results of what they're doing. So it's impossible for them to be operating by an accurate formula because a formula is created to produce a result. But if you don't know what your result is, then any formula can work because you don't know where you're trying to go. It's kind of like if you don't have a destination, it doesn't matter where you drive. So effectiveness is based on knowing what the desired result is, and then are my actions actually getting me there? You may notice that I mention something like this in almost every episode when we talk about productivity and we talk about creating success and creating results. I often talk about what is the result? All right, what are you actually trying to produce? What's the reason why you want to be more productive? What are the outcomes that you're looking to achieve here? And can you measure them? Because if you can't measure them, then how will you know that you're there? How would you know whether you have reached an outcome if there's no way of objectively looking at it? I don't mean just how you feel, but how you can objectively look at it and say, okay, well, this is what I did this year. Here's the numbers. Here's the stats. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I was. All right, this is what we've achieved. This is what worked. This is what didn't. How do you know whether certain actions are leading to the desired outcomes if you don't have a way of measuring the effectiveness of those actions? Meaning the actual results, not what you feel, again, but the actual results that they produce. The less that you can answer the above questions, the more impossible it becomes, the less possible it is for you to be effective. If you ask most people if they would like to be successful, almost everybody is going to say yes. Anyone listening to this will say yes. The question is, then, what is success? You who's listening to this right now, what does success entail for you? How would you know that you are successful in, and you can even break this down into specific areas of your life. How would you know that you are successful? How would you know that you're there? Now, I'm not saying that every single area of your life that it needs to be something that's measurable. When it comes to the relationship you have with your significant other or your kids, I don't know if there's a stat for that. So maybe there are some areas, not maybe, but definitely there are some areas where there's not going to be a measurable metric, but there needs to be something that even if you don't have a measurable stat, there needs to be at least some type of process that you are following, some type of system that you're following that you know is helping you get to what you want to get to. So you can say, okay, I know I'm getting closer to where I want to be because I'm spending this much time every single day with my kids, or I'm doing this thing with my significant other, or I know I'm doing this stuff with my church group, or I'm doing these things to make sure I'm taking care of the house, or I'm spending some time every week watching TV. Whatever it is that you're doing, at least with your kids, let's just say, something that you know you are following some sort of system or program that's getting you towards where you want to go. How would you know if you're going backwards? You should be able to know these things. So all these questions need answers if your goal is effectiveness. Point number 2. Topic again today is effectiveness versus efficiency. Definition of efficient is achieving maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expense. And let's go a level deeper then, since it says maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort. Let's get clear on what this word productivity means, because sometimes definitions have other words that we need a definition on so we know what we're talking about. So we're going second level here. Definition of productivity is the efficiency of production of goods or services expressed by some measure. So both definitions of efficiency and productivity actually use each other in them. So that can kind of throw you in a circle a little bit. But here's the big word that both of them use: measurement. That both of them are talking about, let's just say, measurement. Efficiency can be measured. Productivity can be measured. And this is a word that we've been talking about over and over again here. Both effectiveness and efficiency requires something to be measured so that you can, again, objectively, keyword, objectively weigh your actions against your results. Because what you don't want to do, and this is something that some people find themselves doing, sometimes on purpose and oftentimes not, is they're doing certain things and they say, well, I feel like this is working, or I feel like I should be doing it, or I see other people doing it, so, or I just want to do it, so I'm just going to keep doing the same thing, even though you have no objective way of expressing that doing thing X is actually getting you anywhere closer to the goal Y that you want to be at. So make sure that you have something that you can measure. Again, read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. And that book is based on following publicly traded companies that that basically had a long sustained run of success. And even if you're not a publicly traded company or don't plan to be one and don't even work at one, understand that the principles that Collins and company talk about in that book can apply even to an individual person. And listen, Work on Your Game is not a publicly traded company, but the principles in that book, that's a book I would probably have to, I don't know if I would call it top 5. I'll definitely put it in my top 10, especially in business books. It'd probably be in the top 5. That's a book that I recommend to anyone, even if you could be an Instagrammer or a YouTuber. The principles in that book will apply to you. You could be someone just trying to get a job. Those principles will apply to you. So go find that book, read it. It is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. I read that book twice because of how good it was, even though, again, the basis for the book was not even about someone who does exactly what I do. That's how good of a book that was. Principles should apply. A really good book, nonfiction, the principles should apply to anyone, even if they are not the direct person that you wrote the book for. That's a really good book. The principles apply to anybody. So that big word is measure. So what is that? And I brought up good to great. I forgot even why I brought it up, was the hedgehog concept that Jim Collins talks about in that book. What is the main metric that drives the revenue and the success of your business? What is the main metric? It could be 10 different metrics that matter to your business. What's the main one that drives the business? So for the example that he used in the book, if I'm remembering accurately, was Walgreens. Everybody knows Walgreens, right? You probably all, if you live in America, you know Walgreens because they have the drugstores on every other corner these days. Pharmacies and convenience, so I guess you call them convenience stores now, on every other corner. And one of Walgreens' main metrics was how, I think the metric, well, I may be missing this one, I may be messing it up what it was, but he did boil it down to one main metric for Walgreens, which was how much money is a customer spending on each visit. Let's say it was something like that, or it could have been something like how often is someone coming to the store and buying something, or how many items does somebody buy every time they come into the store. The whole point is there was one main metric that Walgreens identified. This is the main thing that drives our business, so we're going to do everything we can to put all of our resources into making sure we get more people to do this thing, such as come to the store more often, spend more money, or buy more items, whatever it happened to be. When I worked at Foot Locker, for example, now here's one that at least Foot Locker, I'm assuming they believe this was their main metric. I didn't never see any big charts. I wasn't in the corporate office or anything like that, but I was an assistant manager. But one of the things that Foot Locker, the head manager at the store that I worked at when I first started working there, he was really big on. He talked about you always want to get customers to make multiple item purchases. That was a big deal for him. The manager's guy name was Keith. And anytime somebody wanted to buy something, let's say a pair of shoes or something like that, he would always say to the staff member, he wouldn't force it, you can't force it on the customer. He'd always say to the staff member, like the worker, hey, somebody buys something, you want to always try to make it a multiple. That was his favorite phrase. Make it a multiple, make it a multiple, make it a multiple. And I think the reason Keith wanted to do it is because he was being measured by how often he produced multiple item sales. Not because, it's not like Keith was getting a piece of the production for, every time. It's not like Keith, maybe he did actually. Let me not even say that. Maybe he got a bonus for how many multiple sales he got, or percentage of sales that were multiples. So if someone bought, let's just say, this is up in Philadelphia where I'm working. So a lot of people wear the Timberland boots, the 6-inch Timberland construction boots. Down here in Miami, I don't see too many people wearing them. It's just too damn hot to be wearing those boots out here. But in Philly, where I'm from, everybody wore the 6-inch Tims. Every year people just go and buy those Tims, a new pair. But anyway, if somebody would buy those Tims, he would always try to get us as the staff to try to sell the waterproofer. Because up there, of course, you got the snow and the rain and all that stuff. So the waterproofer that you spray on the boots so the boots don't get messed up when they get wet. So try to make it a multiple. Somebody bought a pair of sneakers, you try to sell them some kind of disinfectant or some stuff that Foot Locker sold, or some shoelaces or whatever. If you were a employee making an employee purchase, so let's say I bought myself a pair of Tims and I work at Foot Locker, they would basically force you, the manager at that store would force you to buy something else to make the sale a multiple. So this is what tells me that probably the area managers would tell the store managers, hey, you need to get as many multiples as possible. And when you can force it, like on your own employees, force it. So they knew what their main metric was, and hopefully they were right. And maybe they were. Foot Locker's still in business all these years later. So the point is, you need to figure out what it is for you. What is that effective thing that you can measure? And like I said, effectiveness and efficiency both require measurement. So if you're just showing up and doing stuff, even when you're working really hard at things, but you're not measuring anything, it's impossible for you to be effective or efficient, even if you may be getting the in-game outcomes that you want. You have to be measuring something because you have no baseline against which to measure your actions. This is why sports is such a great baseline for these conversations, because every sport has a scoreboard of some form. Every sport. And the baseline can be the scoreboard itself. Or how many games are we winning? How many games are we losing? For the most part, we can measure the winners and losers in black and white terms in the sports world. But in the business world, you had to define these terms for yourself, because not every business is operating by the same scoreboard. Some businesses want to make as much money as humanly possible. Some businesses just want to serve a certain number of customers. Some businesses want to, who knows? Different businesses have different metrics, so it's not the same as in the sports world. So if you're in business here, not sports, you have to figure out what your metric is. Point number 3. And oh yeah, one more thing on point number 2. This is not an option. This is a requirement. We're talking about being effective and efficient. This is not a choice. This is something that you must do. Point number 3. Topic again today is effectiveness versus efficiency. Number 3. When you get these things confused, you can be extremely efficient, yet ineffective. So let me tell you what this looks like. When you get effectiveness and efficiency confused, you could be doing one really well, yet not doing much in the other area. Here's what this looks like. This is when you are getting a whole lot of things done consistently. You're getting a lot of stuff done quickly, meaning you're spending your whole day working. You got a lot of stuff done. You checked a bunch of stuff off your to-do list. Yet, since you're not measuring whether or not the things you do are actually leading to the outcomes you want, or even worse, you don't even know what outcomes you want, even though you're working, you don't get any closer to a goal. Or you don't even have a goal. So no matter how hard you work, you're not any closer to anything because there's no goal. This is how you can spend an entire day, listen to me here, working really hard, getting a lot done. At the end of the day, you're dead fucking tired, yet you're not any closer to a desired result. Anybody ever felt like this? I know I have. I would say around 2015, 16-ish, around my first full year out of basketball, and I'm going to do this business thing, entrepreneurship thing, full-fledged. I was working really hard every single day. I know I was working hard every day because at the end of the day, I was tired. But I did not have a clear plan. I did not know where I was going. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really have a system. I wasn't operating off of any kind of formula, let alone an accurate formula. I didn't even have an inaccurate formula. I had no formula. My formula was just wake up and work all day. How did I fix this? I fixed this by investing in myself, getting information from people who are already doing something that maybe looked or smelled or rhymed with, looked or smelled like or rhymed with what I wanted to do. Start looking at what they were doing, and then I just started applying their strategies for what I wanted. So first question I asked myself is, who do I actually want to serve? Because I had a lot of different type of people following me. I had a kind of a melded audience because I was coming from the sports world, but I also had non-sports people who were paying attention to my material. How do I get these people's attention? How do I get them to know me, to like me, to trust me, to actually want to do business with me? What can I offer them that they actually want from me? That's a two-part question. Not what do I want to offer them, what can I offer them that they want? Those are two things, and you want to find a mix between those two. Then I started working on answers to each of those questions, and as a matter of fact, all these years later, I feel like I'm still working on those things. It's always evolving because people change, times change, and I change. So everything changes, so you're always working on these things. And what do you base these on, everybody? How do you get these answers, and what do you base them on? You base them on factual information. You base them on objective observation. You base them on measurement. What is working, what is not. If something's not working, I can clearly see that it's not working because look at these stats. If it is working, I can see that it is working because look at these metrics. You need these, that's why you need to measure things. You need this information. What's working, what's being responded to, what's not working, what's not being responded to, what do people not care about, even if you think is amazing. If people aren't responding to it, that's giving you a loud and clear message. The marketplace is letting you know what they think. To give you an example, I had a member of my mastermind just lately, from when I'm recording this, not when you're hearing it, was saying that they came up with this idea for an offering that they wanted to put out. And they decided that they wanted to, I'm not even going to say what it is, but they had this offering they put out. They decided they wanted to price it in a fair way. That was the word that they used. They wanted to put fair pricing because they figured that they priced it fairly, which usually when people say fair, that means, when it comes to pricing, it means lower price so that they can get more people in. So more people will come in and they can basically make their money on volume instead of making so much money on each individual sale. But they said the result was nobody responded. They didn't make any sales on this product or service. I responded and let them know, well, that's the marketplace giving you a loud and clear message that maybe, and it could be several things, but maybe your pricing is not drawing the type of people that you want to sell to. The type of people you want to sell to might want something that's higher priced because it has a higher perceived value. See, a lower price does not necessarily mean you're going to sell more. And there are a lot of salespeople who operate, again, by this, here's that word again, phrase, inaccurate formula. What is working, what is not. So these are all things that will help you be more efficient and more effective. Everything I've said here today. So let's recap today's class, which is effectiveness versus efficiency. Definition, point number one, definition of effective: degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result, also known as plainly success. We all want to be effective, or at least we say we do. One challenge is we might not even know what our desired results are. So can you measure your desired results? The better you can measure them, the easier it is for you to be effective. So what is success for you? How do you know that you're there? How do you know when you're on your way? How do you know when you're going backwards? When you get answers to these questions, you can be more effective. At least you make yourself eligible. Point number two, definition of efficient is achieving maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expense. Productivity is defined as the efficiency of production of goods or services expressed by some measure. I don't really like that second definition. They use the word production in the definition of productivity. I don't like that. But anyway, the big word that you notice in both of these, though, is measurement. Both effectiveness and efficiency require something to be measured. You need a baseline against which to measure your actions. This is why sports is a great baseline for a business, simply because you have to measure something when you're playing sports. Where are you defining the metrics that produce your outcomes? Again, read Good to Great by Jim Collins. This is not an option, everybody. This is a requirement. Number three, when you get these things confused, you can be very efficient yet completely ineffective. So what this looks like is you're getting a lot of stuff done. You're doing a whole lot of work. You're dead tired at the end of the day, but you're not any closer to a goal, or you don't even have a goal. So you worked all hard all day, but don't even know where you're going. And I've been in this space. Maybe some of you have been in this space. I know some people get in this space because I hear from them. Some of them become mastermind members of mine. Some of you have texted me and you need to become mastermind members of mine. How you fix this is you got to get a strategy. Where do you get your strategy from? You don't have to make it up out of thin air. Go find someone who is already going where you want to go, or already been where you want to be, and look at their strategy and start taking their strategies and applying them to yourself. Simple as that. You do not have to come up with something brand new, folks. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be some evil scientist in a lab coming up with things out of nowhere. Just follow what already works. Or they call this modeling. This is what smart people do. All that. So what's working, what's being responded to, what's not. Have answers to these questions and make your adjustments as necessary. 3 things to do now. Number 1, text me at 305-384-6894. Get my daily motivation every day. Number 2, go to bulletproofbulletin.com and get your free first issue of my Bulletproof Bulletin monthly magazine. It's a physical magazine. I'm going to send to your physical mailbox. I'll give you your first issue free. Just cover the shipping. Bulletproofbulletin.com. And number 3, join my Bulletproof Mastermind so you can get the strategies, you have the accountability in place, and you will execute to get things done and actually produce effective results that you want before you run out of time. That is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.